Java Message Service API. The Java Message Service JMS API is a messaging standard that allows Java.EE application components to create, send, receive, and read messages. It enables distributed communication that is loosely coupled, reliable, and asynchronous. Java Transaction API. The Java Transaction API J2EE provides a standard interface for demarcating transactions. The Java.EE architecture provides a default auto-commit to handle transaction commits and rollbacks. An auto-commit means that any other applications that are viewing data will see the updated data after each database read or write operation. However, if your application performs two separate database access operations that depend on each other, you will want to use the J2EE API to demarcate where the entire transaction, including both operations, begins, rolls back, and commits. Java Mail API. Java.EE applications use the Java Mail API to send email notifications. The Java Mail API has two parts. An application-level interface used by the application components to send mail, and a service provider interface. The Java.EE platform includes Java Mail with a service provider that allows application components to send internet mail. JavaBeans Activation Framework. The JavaBeans Activation Framework JAF is included because Java Mail uses it. JAF provides standard services to determine the type of an arbitrary piece of data, encapsulate access to it, discover the operations available on it, and create the appropriate JavaBeans component to perform those operations. Java API for XML Processing. The Java API for XML Processing JAXP, part of the Java.SE platform, supports the processing of XML documents using Document Object Model DOM, Simple API for XML SAX, and Extensible Style Sheet Language Transformations XSLT. JAXP enables applications to parse and transform XML documents independent of a particular XML processing implementation. JAXP also provides namespace support, which lets you work with schemas that might otherwise have naming conflicts. Designed to be flexible, JAXP lets you use any XML-compliant parser or XSL processor from within your application and supports the W3C schema. You can find information on the W3C schema at this URL: http://w3.org. XML Schema. Java API for XML Web Services JAX-WS. The JAX-WS specification provides support for web services that use the JAXB API for binding XML data to Java objects. The JAX-WS specification defines client APIs for accessing web services as well as techniques for implementing web service endpoints. The Web Services for J2EE specification describes the deployment of JAX-WS-based services and clients. The EJB and servlet specifications also describe aspects of such deployment. It must be possible to deploy JAX-WS-based applications using any of these deployment models. The JAX-WS specification describes the support for message handlers that can process message requests and responses. In general, these message handlers execute on the same container and with the same privileges and execution context as the JAX-WS client or endpoint component with which they are associated. These message handlers have access to the same JNDI Java comp env namespace as their associated component. Custom serializers and deserializers, if supported, are treated in the same way as message handlers. Java architecture for XML binding JAXB. The Java architecture for XML binding JAXB provides a convenient way to bind an XML schema to a representation in Java language programs. JAXB can be used independently or in combination with JAX-WS, where it provides a standard data binding for web service messages. All Java.EE application client containers, web containers, and EJB containers support the JAXB API. SOAP with Attachments API for Java. The SOAP with Attachments API for Java SAAJ is a low-level API on which JAX-WS and JAXR depend. SAAJ enables the production and consumption of messages that conform to the SOAP 1. 1 specification and SOAP with attachments node. Most developers do not use the SOAP, instead using the higher level JAX-WS Java API for XML Registries. The Java API for XML Registries JAXR lets you access business and general purpose registries over the web. JAXR supports the XML registry and repository standards and the emerging UDDI specifications. By using JAXR, developers can learn a single API and gain access to both of these important registry technologies. Additionally, businesses can submit material to be shared and search for material that others have submitted. Standards groups have developed schemas for particular kinds of XML documents. Two businesses might, for example, agree to use the schema for their industry standard purchase order form. Because the schema is stored in a standard business registry, both parties can use JAXR to access it. J2EE Connector Architecture. The J2EE Connector architecture is used by tools vendors and system integrators to create resource adapters that support access to enterprise information systems that can be plugged into any Java.EE product. A resource adapter is a software component that allows Java.EE application components to access and interact with the underlying resource manager of the EIS. Because a resource adapter is specific to its resource manager, typically there is a different resource adapter for each type of database or enterprise information system. The J2EE Connector architecture also provides a performance-oriented, secure, scalable, and message-based transactional integration of Java.EE-based web services with existing EISs that can be either synchronous or asynchronous. Existing applications and EISs integrated through the J2EE Connector architecture into the Java.EE platform can be exposed as XML-based web services by using JAX-WS and Java.EE component models. Thus JAX-WS and the J2EE Connector architecture are complementary technologies for enterprise application integration EAI and end-to-end business integration. Java Database Connectivity API. The Java Database Connectivity JDBC API lets you invoke SQL commands from Java programming language methods. You use the JDBC API in an enterprise bean when you have a session bean access the database. You can also use the JDBC API from a servlet or a JAXP page to access the database directly without going through an enterprise bean. The JDBC API has two parts. An application-level interface used by the application components to access a database, and a service provider interface to attach a JDBC driver to the Java.EE platform.